This is solving linear equations. The first question in this homework, it says, what would you do to isolate the variable in the equation below using only one step? So there's different ways you can isolate the variable, but they want only one step. Isolate the variable means solving for x. So you want to get rid of anything that's attached with the x. So that's a plus 2. The opposite of adding 2 is to subtract 2. And in algebra, what you do to one side of the equal sign, you have to do the same thing to the other side. So we would have to subtract 2 from both sides. This would go away, which is our whole goal, and isolate the x equals 47 minus 2 would be 45. So that would be our answer if we were solving that. And you always want to solve for a positive 1x. So this is more a question on details and reading comprehension. So the first one right here, this says, and I drew an arrow here, this says subtract 2 from the left side of the equation only. Well, that can't be, because you can't do one thing to one side and not the other. You have to do, in algebra, whatever you do the left side of the equal sign, you have to do the right side. This says add 2 to both sides. So we're doing the same thing, but the goal is to get the x by itself. When you add 2, that doesn't go away. That makes it a 4, and you want it to go away. You want it to be a 0, so that can't be. This says subtract 2 from the both sides of the equation. Well, that's what we did, right? So that's the winner. Let's look at the last one. Add 47 to both sides. Well, if you add 47 to both sides, that doesn't get the x by itself, right? So it's not that one. So this would be the answer. Subtract 2 from both sides. All right, we're solving. So this is called the addition property. You don't have to know the names. I'm not going to quiz you on that. I just want you to be able to solve for the letters. So we have d minus 10 equals negative 10. So d, and then we're subtracting 10. So the opposite of subtracting 10 is to add 10. And we want to do that so that we have the d by itself on the left side of the equal sign. So we're adding the same thing to both sides. Well, negative 10 plus 10 is 0, so that's d equals, well, negative 10 plus 10 is 0. So it becomes a 0. Here it went away because d plus 0 is just d, but here we wanted to keep it. Now, you can always check, and I just want to show you how to check, and I'll do some checks on some of these today here. So to check it, you replace the d with 0. So this d will become 0 minus 10 equals negative 10. So you're just simplifying. This stays negative 10. 0 minus 10 is negative 10. Well, that does equal, so that checks. Number 3 here. We're solving for u. Now, this time the u is on the right side. That's okay. We can move a lot of things around, move everything around, and have the u on the left, or we can just subtract the 13 from both sides. Because it's 13, it's a positive 13 plus u, so we want to do the opposite. We want to subtract. Remember, the sign is in front of the number, so that 13, there's really a plus sign in front of it, we just don't write it. So negative 10 minus 13, signs are alike, so we add and take the common sign. Remember, when signs are alike starts with a, add starts with a. That's one way to remember that. So that's negative 23 equals, this gives us 0, and 0 plus u is just u. So that is our answer. Now, let me show you one thing. When you're writing your answers in here, notice the u equals right here. The u equals is already there, so you're just going to put in negative 23. Over here, the d equals was already there, so you would just put in 0. So don't put extra, they'll count it wrong. Oops. A fraction, yay! All right, we want to do the opposite still. We want the p by itself. We're subtracting 1/12, so we want to add 1/12 to both sides. So this automatically goes away and gives us p equals Now, if it helps to write it horizontally when you're adding, these are both positives. We have to have a common denominator, which we do, is 12. So we rewrite the denominator, add the numerators, that gives us 2/12. But this says to write it as a reduced fraction. So 2 will go into 2 once, and 2 will go into 12 6 times. So that reduces to 1/6. So our answer is 1/6, because that's what 2/12 reduce to. You want to reduce your fraction. You don't want to use your calculator and change it to a decimal unless they tell you that you can write it as a decimal, or they tell you to round to a certain number. Then you don't want to, you want to use a fraction. You don't want to use a decimal.